All right, thank you so much. Thanks for joining. And as Seth said, I am William Adwin. Today I'm going to be talking about flattering your subject with posing and lighting. I am William Adwin of William Adwin Photography. As Seth mentioned, thank you for the shout out. I've been awarded and acknowledged in a few locations. I am a proud Imagine AI ambassador as well. That is me and my beloved Tika. Photo credit, Susan Stripling. This is a movie that I've watched way too many times. This is another movie I've watched way too many times, but I'm already getting sidetracked. So that was a joke. You guys can laugh. I have a dry delivery. Back to the topic at hand, flattering your subject with posing and lighting. So I'm going to be going over some notes here. I'm also going to be, of course, doing some demos with our lovely models, Sarah and Gabe, in just a moment. If you have any questions at any point, please feel free to just ask them. If I can't answer them right away, I will answer them in a bit, or I might say I'm going to address that soon. So, introduction. Posing, it's actually a bad word to non-photographers. I can say posing to photographers, but I want to make a point here. A lot of the couples I work with, I'm primarily a wedding photographer, but with weddings or portraits, a lot of people in the general public think that posing is a bad word. They think that it might mean that something's going to look stiff and rigid. There's nothing wrong with posing. There's only something wrong with bad posing. And so to avoid that, I just tell my clients I'm going to give them direction. They're happy to get direction, but no one wants to get posed. So just a little tip there. Defining what it means to flatter your subject. Showing your subject in a favorable way that addresses their wants and needs. What are their wants and needs? Well, first I'm going to say, from the beginning, it's really important to build trust to understand couples' wants and needs, or your clients. How do you build trust? Having a portfolio, having a brand, having a reputation. But above and beyond that, even if you're just starting out, one of the best things you can do is use both of these. Just listen. If you talk at people too much, even though I'm talking at you this entire time, if you're having a consultation, it's important to listen. I take notes whenever I talk to a couple. I tell them I'm taking notes whenever I'm talking to a couple or a client. That builds trust. Trust is important because they're more likely to be open and honest with me with the things that I'm about to talk to you about. You can, so from the beginning, understand their wants and needs. A simple way to kind of start this conversation after you've built some trust is, do the preferred side you like to be photographed on? Or is there anything else you'd like to share about being photographed? This will open the conversation. I've been photographing weddings since 2012, and I have worked with more couples and more individuals than I can count. I also do portrait and studio work. And many, many people have come to me and said, you know what? I want to be flattered. I feel a little uncomfortable about maybe this part of my body or that part of my body. It's important for us to listen and be able to address that. You can ask if they have a preferred side. I'd mention that. In general, this is what couples have shared with me. They want to look natural and comfortable. And or they want to look slim or slim in certain parts of their body. Natural and comfortable, well, what does that mean with photography? Not feeling stiff. I'm going to go into specifics as to what I mean by that. Lacking emotion, we're going to show how to get some emotion out of people as well. Slim, specifically some things that couples or an individual has brought up to me over time. They might feel they want to be slimmer in their midsection, in their chin, in their arms. Some of these things are more common. Now, I want to be very clear about this. This is the most important thing with my preface. This is about addressing couples' wants and needs. This does not mean that there's something wrong with their body, okay? We are photographers and we're providing a service and an experience. It would be unprofessional if someone got our trust, and I've had a bride, for example, say, you know what, I feel a little uncomfortable with my arms. I just want to share that with you. If I just said, okay, and I didn't acknowledge that, and I didn't give any direction or posing to or lighting to address that, it would be dismissive and it wouldn't create a good experience for them. What if you gain trust and they did not share their wants and needs with you? This could happen. It could happen because maybe they feel uncomfortable sharing something with you. However, it also might happen because they just aren't aware of it. So with weddings specifically, an engagement session is a great kind of warm up before the wedding day. I've had couples say, you know what, I didn't even realize I kind of prefer my right side, or maybe I prefer my left side. And I didn't know it because I've never really had pictures taken in a professional setting. So you can then address that on the wedding day. So very important. These techniques can be used even if they don't share someone's wants and needs. That's the nice thing about the techniques I'm going to share with you today, because even if above and beyond anything else, the techniques I'm going to show you show body language that is connecting. This is about two people connecting, or it's about an individual feeling comfortable, or two people feeling comfortable together. So you can still use these techniques even if they don't share anything about themselves that they want to share with you before having their pictures taken. But if they open that conversation with you, if you gain the trust, all the better. So I'm going to start with Sarah. Why don't you come on up? Gabe, you can just relax for the time being. So I'm going to start with lighting, and then I'm going to get into posing. Those are the two kind of sections of what I'm talking about today. Can you turn this way towards me and you're going to back up this way? Perfect. Now, when I'm giving people direction, I like to point, gesture, things like that. I said to Sarah earlier, but I'll show again. Sarah, just kind of pretend like you're standing in a mirror. If I turn my head this way, you can turn your head this way. Just like this. Just like this, turn the head the other way. So that's how I give people direction. I try not to say left or right, because who's left, who's right, it could get confusing. If you bring your chin down, if you bring your chin up, just easy peasy, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to start with just some basic lighting. All right, and can you just bring your hair back on both sides. Can you bring them down just a little bit? That right there is perfect. Yep, perfect. Okay, excellent. Okay, good. So, shadows. Some people think shadows are a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with shadows. It's all about where those shadows are. Okay, so actually, Gabe, can you come up here? I want to demo about bad shadows. Can you hold the light right here? Yep. You can hold it with both hands. Yep, there you go, just like that. Sarah, you don't have to look at this picture I'm about to take of you. Here we go. This is not how Sarah wants to be shown. There are shadows here, but they're in the wrong places. Now, Sarah just said some photographers do that. It's true. I'm here to teach you how to not do that.
And we all laugh.
Yes. Now, if I wanted to create something menacing and horror, driven, maybe you want to do that. So think of it like a tone of an instrument. If you're playing guitar, you could have one really soft tone. If you're playing heavy metal, you have a really aggressive tone. But most of the time when I'm working with couples and a client, they want to be flattered. They want to have some softer tones on them. Thank you. Yeah. Sure. So I am shooting on the Nikon Z6 II today. I'm using a 24-to-120 lens, Nikkor lens, and I'm using the Ice Light 3 for my continuous lighting. I can tell you that I will be at f4 the entire time. If anyone's curious about my aperture, I have plenty of light here, so I don't need anything really too wide. Okay, so push the hair back on both sides. You could sit down for the time being, thank you. Now I'm going to show you a better place for shadows to be. Bring the chin up a little bit. Okay, perfect. So it's pretty clear that there's a difference between this lighting and that lighting. Okay? Tremendous difference. Now, if you look, there's still shadows, but the shadows are off to the side. Shadows are on the side of the nose, on the side of the face, on the side of the neck. okay? That's a good place for the shadows to be. And I will go on more in depth as to why it's something that works well. Okay. Bring up the keynotes. Okay, so again, shadows aren't bad. It just depends on where they are. But the good thing about shadows is they add a sense of the third dimension. Adding the sense of the third dimension is slimming. And I'm gonna show you a visual analogy. You could just sit on the stool for the time being. I'm gonna show you a little bit of a visual analogy. We've all seen this before, I'm pretty sure, probably most of our lives. This, of course, is a full moon. When the sun is directly on the moon, it's flat lighting. It's illuminating the entirety of the moon. But when you start bringing in light from the side, you're getting dimensional light, and even more so and more so. This looks smaller than that looks smaller than that, and that looks smaller than that, but the moon is all the same size. So if you start introducing dimensional light, not flat light coming directly on your subject, if you start introducing dimensional light coming in from the side, you're going to be slimming your subject to some degree, whether it's a lot of shadow or a little bit of shadow, okay? As I mentioned, flat lighting does not flatter in the same way. It's not slimming. It doesn't add that drama as well, and it doesn't have a sense of the third dimension. All right, so there's a couple different ways of using dimensional lights, and stand up again. There's a lighting called narrow lighting or short lighting, and it sounds like exactly what it is. It's going to create a narrow or short look on your subject's face. So can you turn your head this way? A little bit more, perfect. Are we able to bring the house lights down? There we go, perfect. Turn your head a little more this way. There you go, perfect, just like that. So this is an example of short lighting, and I'll explain the characteristics of it. Bring the chin up a little bit. Okay, you could relax for the time being. So what's happening here, my light is coming from off-camera right. The light's coming in right here. I'm illuminating the front plane of her face. The side plane of her face is in shade, okay? So that is narrow lighting. That's going to be slimming. So why don't we come back? You're going to look in the same place. Now, there's also something called broad lighting. Now, if you want to slim someone, you don't want to use broad lighting. However, sometimes you might want to make someone look a little bit bigger, a little wider, okay? So this is the exact same subject, and that is broad lighting, that is narrow lighting. So you can see how her face looks wider here. And where's my pointer? I don't know where my pointer is. But you can see that her face looks wider because we're lighting the entire side plane of her face as compared to lighting just the front plane of her face. So if you're trying to slim someone down, this is a good approach. If you're trying to show someone in a broader light, literally, that's a good way to do that. Okay. Coming down. So one thing we want to keep in mind, Gabe, can you come over? When we're lighting dimensionally, and you're not going to really get this as much if you're lighting flat directly on your subject. When we're lighting dimensionally, you want to keep an eye out for cast shadows. Cast shadows aren't your friends in the context that I'm going to share with you. So can you come over here? You come over here. You come forward a little bit, and can you stand right here? Perfect. That's good. Perfect. Just like that. Okay. So I'm going to get some lights. Can we bring the house lights down a little bit more if possible? Take a little step back, Sarah. There you go. Perfect. Now come forward a little bit, Sarah. That's good. Perfect. John, turn the face this way a tiny bit. There we go. So this kind of has like a cool look to it if you're trying to go for something a little menacing, okay, or something kind of strange. But if you're using dimensional light, here I'm using light. It's coming from, here's my clicker, my laser pointer. I can't do this without a laser pointer. My light is coming from off-camera rights. It's lighting the front plane of his face. This is that narrow, slim lighting, okay? But as the light continues this way, his head is blocking the light going onto her face.
Use your cursor. The live stream can get an idea of what you're talking about because they can't see your laser pointer.
Oh, okay. No, that's a good point. So I will use my cursor here. I have light coming from off-camera rights coming right here onto Gabe. Okay, this is that narrow short lighting because the front plane of his face is lit and the side plane of his face is in shadow. But the light, as it comes this way, his head is casting a shadow onto her. We don't want to do that. So when you start getting into off-camera lighting, it's going to be a little trickier because of some of these things. If I just had light directly on both of them, it's easier in the sense, and you guys can just both look right here. This is, might have got a blink. No, no blink. This is easier in the sense because I don't have to worry about cast shadows. However, do you see how much more narrow his face looks? Do you see the dimension? Do you see the kind of like mood to that? It has a sense of form. This is flat. But if you're going to start using dimensional light, you have to think about cast shadows. So can you step back a little bit? That's good. Perfect. And just angle in towards each other. Yep, perfect. That's good. Excellent. And get it a little bit closer. Perfect. Now, I have them both in a good spot. There's light on both of them. We're just looking right here. And we don't have any problems with cast shadows. So we're getting that dimensional light. We have, and actually, I want to show one thing. Can you bring your chin up a little bit, Sarah? Perfect. And there's so many little pieces to think about when you're working with someone, okay? So see how her chin's down there? I want to bring her chin up just a little bit. Because once you bring your chin down, anyone, it's going to compress the chin a little bit. So take a shot and look at it and analyze it before you take another shot. This could have been improved upon by her bringing her chin up. So you can see the chin is up here and the chin is down there. But we are not getting any cast shadows now, okay? One way to kind of imagine your light source has a string coming from it. It should go directly to your subject without anything interfering. Then you're not going to get cast shadows. Gabe, why don't you have a seat? Now an individual can have cast shadows as well. Can you bring your hair forward? Try to bring your hair purposely forward. Yeah, as much as you can. Kind of hanging. Yeah. Well, not quite that much, but just bring it forward, kind of like so it's hair. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yep. What, bring your chin up? Do you mind if I adjust your hair a little bit?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Just go like this. Perfect. Okay, good. There we go. So turn the head this way. Good. So right now, I have good light on her face. Lean in towards me just a little bit. Chin up. A little more. Chin up. Perfect. Okay, good. Chin up a little more. You want to be aware. Now, this is kind of subtle, but depending on some people's hairstyles, if they have tendrils, if they have hair that's styled forward, if you notice here, do you see this? This right here, this is a cast shadow from her hair. No one wants just a random dark line on her face, okay? So whether it's someone's hair, whether it is a veil, whether it's another person or an object, you want to be aware of cast shadows. So off-camera lighting is great. It's dimensional, it's slimming, it sets a mood, but it is more complicated. So make sure to keep an eye out for these kind of cast shadows, elements like that. Okay. Moving on. I talked about the moon. We're all familiar with the moon. Now I'm going to start getting into posing. So I talked about some lighting elements to flatter. Now I'm going to talk about some posing elements to flatter. So have your subject's weight mostly on one leg, not evenly distributed. Okay, so I'm going to turn this up a little bit. Can you step back a little bit? Okay. Yeah, you can actually just push the hair back on both sides now. And do you like how I do that? I'm, telling her what to do. Not that I could do that. He knows what I'm talking about. I'm follically challenged. It's okay. I can move faster on a wedding day. Okay, that's fantastic. The jokes aren't going to get any better. Perfect. Okay, turn your head this way a little bit. Straighten the head out. Turn the head this way. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to take a picture of her now without having the weight mostly on one leg. The hair is, the body is just going to be evenly, the weight is evenly going to be distributed here. So now what I'm going to have you do, I want you to turn the feet this way. We're going to bend the front knee. Turn the front knee towards me. Bring the front knee over and push the weight back. Yep, perfect. Bring the arms off the body. Okay. Do you mind if I adjust here?
Yeah, no, go for it.
There you go. Perfect. Yep, good, just like that. You can bring the hands down a little bit. I'm sorry, bring the elbows back a little bit. Perfect. Bring that knee over a little bit. Perfect, good. And you're going to lean in towards me a little bit. Chin up. Perfect. Turn the head towards the light just a tiny bit. Chin up a little bit. Whoops.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Are you focusing on her face, locking it,
Yep.
and then framing? Or...
Repeat the question.
Yeah, so he was asking, am I focusing on, what am I focusing on? So what I'm focusing on is the face. That was the question. What am I focusing on? I pretty much always focus on someone's face, and then I compose to get my shot. I focus on the face first, keep it locked on their face, and then compose as needed. So this is that first shot, and you can see that her feet, the weight is evenly distributed on both legs. So this has a wider look to it. Now, if you're going for something a little more prominent and strong, that's a good way to do that. But if we're trying to slim, do you see her legs now? Do you see the difference there? The shadows are a little bit, let me, there we go. So you can see her legs here are a little more evenly distributed with the weight. And then here, we're slimmer because we're bending that front knee and we're shifting the weight back. Everyone see the difference there? All right, it's important to have joints bent as much as possible. So we can keep that there. Keep your arms actually where they are and bring them close to your body. That's good, perfect. So she kind of already did it naturally because, she's a model. If I was giving direction to someone that's not a model and I gave them direction to their legs, they're probably not going to start thinking about any other part of their body. So I want to illustrate this. Can you bring your feet over a little bit? Thank you. Bring the chin up a little bit. Perfect. Turn the face into the light. Turn the face a little more into the light. Chin up. Okay. This is with her arms locked. That has a kind of stiff quality to it. The arms are just locked. You want to try to, of course, bend. And there doesn't have to be a lot of a bend necessarily. Just really something subtle. So you don't even have to put the hands on the hips. I just want you just a little bit. Bend. Yep. And think of a little gap in between. Yep. Do you mind if I touch your arm? No. And if you're ever working with someone, always ask permission. Always ask permission if you could touch their arm, whatever the case. That also builds trust. You guys have stories about?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I'm going to take the same picture. Bring a little gap there. Yep, perfect. Chin up a little more. Now, normally I would like to shoot a little bit longer, but of course I don't have too much square footage in here, but that's okay. So there are a little bit of some distortions from shooting wide. Normally I would want to shoot a little bit longer. But let's just look at her arms here. So her arms are straight, they're locked. It just has a little bit of a stiff look to it. And just the slightest little bend makes all the difference. So when people say they want to feel comfortable, they want to look natural, most people don't just kind of hang out like this. If you met someone at a party like this, no one's going to talk to them. But if you met someone at a party, they're just kind of hanging out like this, they're having a drink, you know, they're bending their limbs, you know? So you can give them that direction. And in general, when you're photographing people, they can feel a little uncomfortable, especially if they're not used to it. Of course, our models are used to it, but most of the time, at least what I'm working with couples, individuals that aren't used to being photographed. Having opposing body masses. Now, we already kind of started doing this, but let's bend those arms just a little bit. Actually, why don't you take a rest? Why don't you come in, Gabe? All right, so we're going to, yep, that's just good. I'm going to first take a picture where his body masses, and when I say body masses, I'm talking about the head, torso, pelvis. When all of the body masses are in the same position, it's not going to have a sense of ease or movement. Again, if you're trying to create something intimidating, something strong, that's good. Most of my couples and clients aren't looking for that. So what you're going to do is put the hands in the pockets, kind of make an L with your feet. Yep. And yep, exactly. You're going to bend the front knee, turn the head this way. That's good. Bring the chin down a little bit. Good, just like that. Little gap and a little gap here. Perfect. So with very, very minimal direction being given here, we now have a picture where, like, this guy you want to hang out with at the party, this guy is checking IDs, okay? So the body language says everything. He's checking someone out, maybe someone's checking him out, okay? So having opposing body masses, having, you know, so the face is facing to the right, the chest is facing towards the body, and the pelvis is facing a bit off to the left, because the feet are also facing off to the left. We've got a little bend in the arms, we've got these little gaps. You don't ever want to not be able to see the edge of the torso, because it can create an optical illusion that makes someone look wider. Why don't you just put your arms down by the side? Yep. Actually, I don't even know if we have to do that. Well, there is a tiny gap there. So yeah, no gap. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit on. Bring your arms a little closer to your body. Perfect. And now just a little hands in the pockets. Perfect. So if you can see the edge of someone's torso, it's going to have a slimming look to it. If you can't see the edge of someone's torso and their arms are there, it could create an optical illusion that they're wider than they actually are. Okay? So, any questions as of this point? Good? Okay. Now, another thing a lot of people will do, just bring your shoulders up. Yeah. Now, I'm telling him to bring his shoulders up. He's doing a great, you're really good at looking uncomfortable. Perfect. And now just relax the shoulders. Yep. And one thing I like to do, now, okay, there's a half blink too. So this is a very incriminating photo. We don't have to show anyone. No one's watching. I'm just kidding. You know, I'm not going to even leave that up there, but bring the shoulders up. Okay. I couldn't do that to my man, Gabe. So a lot of times when people are having their pictures taken for the first time, if they're not models, if they're not used to it, people tend to kind of tighten up, you know? So tighten up. What I tell people to do, and I will say, look at what I'm doing. I'll say, drop the elbows, pretend like your elbows are being pulled down to the ground, and pretend like your head is being pulled up to the, yep, exactly. Bring the chin down a little bit. Perfect. Now, if people overdo it too much, you might have to say, okay, one of the best things to do if you're giving someone direction and they start looking too stiff, say, let's start again. Because if you give, especially if someone's not a model, if you give them too much direction, it starts getting overwhelming. And they're like, this is a job. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It's like, how is that? Does that work? You know, just say reset. Let's start again. Okay. So he now has stood up much better. The shoulders are down. The head is up. You can see a tremendous difference there. Now we're exaggerating a bit, but even when it's subtle, you know, especially if someone, again, hasn't had their picture taken, they're like, yep, I'm ready to have my pictures taken. So those are one of the things you want to look at.
Will you only be working with one light when you're in the field? Or use a wall to bounce light or?
That's a good question. So the question was, do I only use one light if I'm working out on a job? Most of the time, I actually prefer using one light. I like the simplicity of one light. However, I could use multiple lights. I used to use multiple lights. And what's interesting is as time has gone by and I've started using light more, I've actually simplified. And to make an analogy, you know, I like cooking. The more I cook, the more I kind of simplify things. I just make sure the right ingredients are there rather than adding 30 ingredients to try to make a soup. I'm just using 5, but it's the right ingredients. So on the field, I just use one light. Also because I'm a wedding photographer, mobility is tremendously important. Okay, so I'm gonna have, can I actually use that for just a moment? Have a seat. And with, I'll actually demonstrate for you. With sitting, I find it's easier because when someone's standing and you say, mirror me, they can easily move. When people are sitting, they're kind of a little bit already situated where they are. So I like to personally demonstrate. I'll say, okay, can we sit here? You're gonna put your left foot here, and we're just gonna sit like this, okay? Perfect, yep. This far leg you can keep down. Turn the head this way, good. And now what I want you to do, actually stand up again. My apologies. What I want you to do, one thing I didn't tell him to do is I want you to lean forward, okay? So with your left elbow on your left knee. Right now I'm at the point of sit up straight or purposefully lean. Now we're showing about how to sit up straight. Leaning and slouching are two different things, okay? So turn, yeah, actually that's good just like that. Turn the head this way a little bit. Keep going, keep going. Yep. Eyes on me. Perfect, good. So this is a lean, and I'm gonna explain the difference between a lean and a slouch. This is a lean. This is a lean here. Now the difference between a lean and a slouch, a lean is purposeful, and usually it's towards the camera, okay? It's engaging. Now, what I want you to do, I'll demonstrate. So stand up for a moment. I just want you to sit like this and just kind of don't straighten the back. Yep, perfect. This is more of a slouch. Now, again, with everything I'm explaining, there could be a purpose for something. But for my intention, when couples say they want to look natural, they want to look slim, they want to look flattered, they want to look confident, this is confidence, okay? This is the person at the party, they're sitting down now. This person, they don't want to be there. Now, is there photography where this would be appropriate? Yeah, if you're trying to create a sense of just very carefree, not really caring that much, just kind of chilling out. But my couples, they want to be confident, okay? They want to be flattered. So the lean into the camera is different than just the slouch that kind of says, I'm not that interested, okay? Now, for slimming with giving direction, why don't you stand? Now we talked about slimming with light. Now we're going to slim with giving direction. And I've covered a fair amount of these. So the weight to the back of the leg we talked about. I could talk about your subject's torso and your shoulders. So I'm going to bring this light up a little bit. Yep. And right now, I'm only concerned with his shoulders. So I'm not going to give too much direction anywhere else to illustrate a point. Now I want you to turn the shoulders this way. Yeah. Now turn the head this way. Perfect. Turn the shoulders towards me a little bit more. That's good. Leaning in towards me. Perfect. Turn the head this way. Perfect. Good. Looking right here. Okay, so this is creating more of a slimming effect by turning the shoulders to the camera. Now, if you want more of a broad effect and a wider effect, you're going to have the shoulders square to the camera. So his face is really in the same position. The lighting is the same, but turning the body sideways is slimming as compared to having the shoulders square to the camera. Any questions at this point? So another thing here, we talked about the gaps in the arms. We don't want to create that optical illusion of not being able to see the edge of the torso. Now, there is kind of an exception to the rule. In general, you want to see the edge of the torso. You could have, you could rest for just a second. I'm going to actually use this. So I'm going to have Sarah come in here. And Sarah, what I want you to do is you're going to kind of crisscross applesauce the hands, just like this. Perfect. Do you mind pushing the hair back on both sides? You can just push it back. It doesn't have to be tied. I think we're okay. And overlap a little bit more. Perfect. Good. And try to sit up straight, but lean in towards me just a bit. Turn the head this way. Perfect. So what I'm demonstrating is that we talked about earlier, you can have the hands on the hips and have the arms floating away to show the side of the torso. However, you could purposely overlap the arms in to show the side of the torso. Chin up a little bit. So in this picture here, you can see the edge of her torso on the right side, the edge of her torso on the left side. Bring the... Did I adjust my shadows?
Yeah, because I think it's adjusting as it comes in.
Yeah, I am bringing up the shadows because the shadows are a bit flat, and I just want to be able to show people a little bit more about what's going on. So so this is what the file looks like straight out of camera. I'm exposing for her face, but to illustrate the point of what's happening around the body, I am bringing up the shadows just so that you can see. And that's usually something I do with my post-production. I expose for the lights, and then I'll bring up shadows because I have a lot of leeway to bring up shadows. But if I were to expose for the shadows, then her face is going to get overexposed. So now with the arms, just bring them to the side. Yep, and bring them in. So no gap between. Perfect. Do you mind if I touch your arm here? Sure. Bring this forward, forward. That's good, just like that. So I'm going to take a picture where you can't see the edge of her torso. Bring this arm in a little bit. Perfect. Turn the head this way. Chin up a little bit. So she hasn't moved. The light hasn't moved. The only thing that has moved is her arms. So do you see the difference? Do you see how this is slimming because you can see the edge of her torso here and here? Here, you can't see the edge of her torso, and there's no gap between her torso and her arm, so it creates this optical illusion that makes her look wider. You can't actually, does that make sense? So you want to always define the edge of the torso. Okay, you can take a break right now. So I want to show you some samples of individuals that I photographed. And then I'm going to go into how to work with two people together and show you some samples. I have a stool. You can take turns maybe. Okay, so no one I'm showing you here is a model, okay? These are real couples on a wedding day or maybe an engagement session. And so right here, This is Sarah, the bride. The light is coming in from a window from off-camera right. You can see that I'm just lighting the front plane of her face, and the side of her face is in shadow. So that's that narrow slimming light that we talked about. Her arm, off-camera right, is bent. Okay, we don't want it locked. We want a nice bend. There's a bend in the elbow. There's also a bend in the wrist. You know, you don't want too much of this, just a nice soft bend in the elbow. Sometimes people will bend their elbow, but then keep their wrist straight. So make sure to be aware of just tilting that wrist just a bit. There's a gap here, so you could see the edge of her torso. There's not an optical illusion that her torso is wider than it is. Now, there are some circumstances where you have to break the rules or acknowledge that you can't do what you maybe normally would be able to do. And what I'm talking about is she wanted to hold her flowers. Her flowers are blocking the edge of her torso on the left side, okay? However, you have to prioritize things. So she wants to hold her flowers. I'm going to certainly allow her to hold her flowers. But on the right side, I still am able to get that arm off the body, show the side of the torso, and it has a slimming effect. This is another bride, Yael. There's a gap on both of the arms. Her elbows are just floating off of her body. We have this, pretty much everything I do, I almost always use that narrow lighting. It's just slimming, it's flattering, it also creates a sense of dimension. So that front plane of her face is lit, the side of her face is in shadow. I'm doing the same thing here. This is actually her husband. Front plane of the face is lit, side plane is dark. There is a gap in his arms here, although the background is a little bit dark. It was the environment I was in. If he had a white suit, you'd be able to see that gap a little more, but it is there. This is a bride. Now, I'm using subtle light. It's very soft. She's standing on the edge of sunlight. So if there was sunlight right there, and then she's in shadow, she's right here near it, and there still is a subtle sense of light coming from off-camera left, illuminating her front plane of her face, and just a little shadow here. The arms are floating off the body. This, she's putting her weight on her back leg, and we have a bend in that knee. So it's creating this V effect. It's creating that slimming sense throughout her body. Again, it's almost like, you know, just a formula that I have. This is that narrow light, arms are off the body, knee is bent. Yeah.
The chat's asking why you chose black and white for the husband.
I will say every picture I deliver for a wedding day and an engagement session, I actually give a color and a black and white. The reason I'm showing black and white, honestly, is just aesthetics. It just has a mood to it. It has a look to it. This venue has a lot of history to it. So I was kind of going for something that had a little bit of a historic kind of old Hollywood kind of look to it. So that was why. The color or black and white doesn't have anything to do with flattering your subject. It's more of a stylistic choice.
Using different LED lights outdoors and indoors, and for distance, are you changing any more powerful? Or
Yeah. So the question is, am I using any different LED lights outside? If I'm changing anything with different distances and things like that. I don't use LED lights outside. I only use LED lights inside. Now, there are some LEDs that are strong enough to use outside, and I have used them, but they're so strong that most couples, as soon as I turn them on, they're like, it's too bright for them. Yeah. So yeah, you've sensitized to that, sure. Inside, you don't need as much continuous light. It doesn't have to be as bright, and usually your subject can get used to it. So outside, if I'm using any dimensional lights, I'm going to use off-camera flash. I'm going to use a strobe because it gives me a lot more power, and I could create the same look. Or outside, I will use natural light. Sure. So here's an example. Remember we were talking about you could have the arms floating off the body. However, you could also have them coming in. So you can see the edge of her torso. If her arm was off to the right, you would have had an optical illusion where you couldn't see the edge of her torso. This is just natural window light coming in from off-camera left. Again, that short lighting that I use time and time again, just the front plane of her face is lit. The side of her face is in shadow. Now, it also has a flattering look to the body because only part of the arm is lit. Part of the arm is in shadow. If I used flat light here, her arm would look bigger. It would create that optical illusion because just if you remember the full moon, The full moon, whether it's flat lit or if it's lit from the side, it's the same size, but there's an optical illusion that something looks bigger or smaller. So everything is slimming here because that light is coming in from the side. This is another example. This is Nikki. You can see the edge of her torso here. There's a tiny gap there, and that's just enough to show the viewer the edge of her torso. This is arms coming in as compared to arms floating off the body. Again, you want to show the edge of the torso. It has a slimming effect to it. Now I'm going to get into flattering two people. Okay, so we're both going to come over here. So we talked about ways to flatter an individual. Here are some techniques to flatter two people. So we're going to face each other. Yep, perfect. Do you mind taking your jacket off? And I'm just having her take her jacket off so I can illustrate more clearly with her arms. So I just want you to wrap your arms around each other in a way that feels comfortable. Okay, so I always, and you don't have to move, I always start general and I get more specific, okay? So if I ask a couple, can you just wrap your arms around each other? I want to watch to see what they do. They might fall into place, they might need some direction, they might not. Look right here. So this is when I said, put your arms around each other in a way that's comfortable. Now there's a couple things I would want to do here. I've had some people say to me, you know what, I feel a little uncomfortable with my arms. However, their style, they want to wear something that shows their arms off. So can you take your left hand and just bring it on her upper arm here? Bring it down a little bit. Perfect. Put your right hand behind her so I can't see it. And can you bring your hand up on him? Perfect. Good. Yep. And can you turn your shoulders towards me a little bit? And can you open your shoulders a little more towards me? Perfect. Chin this way. Great. Looking right here. So, as I mentioned before, if someone shares with you that maybe they feel uncomfortable about their arms, but whether they do or not, how much more of a connection is there with his hand being seen as compared to his hand kind of lurking behind? Also, both of his hands right here, what's it doing? It's blocking the edge of her torso. We want to see the edge of her torso, okay? So now you can see the edge of her torso. His hand is here, which just has a slimming effect on the arm, okay? Very simple, but very effective. Now, another technique is holding the face or the chin. So first, I just want you to look at it. That's perfect. So I just want you to face each other, okay? And you can just hold hands in the center. Perfect. Good. And you don't actually have to look at each other if you don't want to. I don't want it to be, I don't want it to be too awkward. And shimmy this way a little bit. So we're using the backdrop. Perfect. Okay, looking at each other. And actually, there's something else I want to illustrate here. First, all right, so I'm taking a picture here. Just like I mentioned, and some of you watching might see something here, and maybe you're thinking, is he going to notice this? Her hair on the far side is coming forward. You don't want that, okay? This is kind of like showing the edge of the torso. You want to show the edge of someone's neck, chin, and face. Okay, well, you already did it. So now we're looking at each other. Yep, perfect. You want to get that clean profile, and especially for a silhouette, which I'm going to show some silhouettes later. So do you see how distracting that is with her hair on the far side? It just looks like there's hair kind of growing out of her neck. I would imagine most people don't want that. I'll just take a shot in the dark about it. And here we push the hair back. So you have a flattering element there. Now, that wasn't on my notes, but I wanted to show you because I saw them facing each other. I saw that there. But what we're actually going to address here, can you just softly bring your hands up to his face? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Bring the hands down a little bit. because we do want to see, and can you take the hairband off? It makes photographers twitch if there's a hairband on someone's wrist. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, yeah. Bring the hands up a little bit. Yep, perfect. And just kind of push the hands back. There you go. You're going to lean in towards each other. And again, if this is weird, you don't have to look at each other. Bring the chins up. Bring the chins up. Okay, you could rest. So if someone said to me, you know, I feel uncomfortable with my chin, you know, we can tell them to lean forward. We can tell them to bring the chin up. But you can also, and normally they're not a couple. Normally what I would do is I would have their faces about this close. And it would look like they're going in for a kiss. This is a little too spaced out for me, but because they're not a couple, I don't want to, you know, have them, you know, go in for a kiss. But how much nicer is that when someone, whether you're trying to slim their chin or not, how much nicer is that when there's just an embrace? As compared to, you know, a 7th grade dance where people are, you know, trying to kiss each other that way or something like that. Yeah, yeah, the 7th grade dance, you know, like arms locked, get away from me as much as you possibly can. And if you're going to kiss, you know, kind of like that. Do you guys mind getting a little bit closer? Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, you could close the eyes. Bring the chin up. You could bring your arms around her. Perfect. And actually bring your left hand up on her arm. Perfect. And just keep the eyes closed. And chin up, guys. Okay, you can rest. So this is a little, because they're comfortable with it, this is a little more close to what I would do with a couple, and maybe even a little bit closer, because I would actually have them kiss. Now, I'm not going to have them kiss, but you can see that it's like that moment right before the kiss. And I will say, if you're photographing people kissing, which of course I do a lot because it's a wedding, the actual kiss itself could be kind of awkward looking because you're literally freezing their lips pushing together. You can photograph the kiss, but make sure to photograph that second, that half second right before the kiss. Make sure to photograph that second right after when they have that nice smile. So shoot before and through the moments, because this, if it was a little bit closer, and I'll show you some pictures that I've taken of the same technique, if they're a little bit closer, it's going to read as a kiss. And while I was at it, I had his left hand up here on her arm. His right hand is back here, okay? Which if I was to take again, I would just have him hide that right hand, okay? All right, and I think we're wrapping up here. Now there are techniques for cropping the body. Why don't you have a seat? Yep, you can just be just like that. Another technique for slimming, turn the head this way. Can we bring the lights down just a little bit? Perfect. You can keep looking where you're looking. That's good. So I'm going to take 2 shots. I'm going to take 1 shot where you're seeing the entirety of his torso. I'm going to take another one where I'm cropping. So this is another effect for slimming your subject, whether you're showing the entire body or you're cropping a bit. Now you can't do this all the time, but you can do that for some. These are all tools. You can use different tools in different circumstances. And if you only had one technique, the pictures that you took would look very redundant. Okay, and so you could crop the body by cropping in like I did. You could crop the body with another person. Why don't we come over here? So let me take a picture of you by yourself real quick. And this is about the last technique I'm going to do. Turn it face this way. And looking here. And put the arms in the pockets. Actually, you were just kind of holding the jacket. That was nice too. So this is a straightforward shot. I am doing things like narrow lighting to flatter him. I have the gaps in the arms. But if I want to slim him more, come over this way. Can you stand here? I want you to put your shoulder behind her. Your shoulder behind her. You're going to angle in towards him. Yep, that's good. And just bring your hands together and float them off the body. Yep. And we're going to pretend like this is a wedding and she's holding a bouquet. Okay? So she's holding a bouquet. And what I want to do, take a little step behind her, a little more. Yep. So you kind of just put your arm around her, or just, it could just be behind her. Turn this way. Your right hand put behind her so I can't see it. So he just put his, no fault of his own, he just put his right hands around her waist, and I want to show the edge of her waist. Turn the face this way, chin up, tilt the head, and eyes right here. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm using her body to crop out some of his body. Do you see that? So I still have this gap in the arm here, which is slimming, but now I'm blocking out some of his body, which is another means of slimming. So you can do that with an object, you can do that with a person, really whatever you have with you. So I'm going to show you a couple more examples of what I have done with these techniques, and then I'll answer any questions that you have. So this is actually the one of the main pictures I showed. You can see that his hand is here, and the two of you can just rest. Thank you. Let's hear it for our models. It's fantastic. So you can see that his left hand is here on her upper arm. Her right hand is here, covering up his chin. But it also just is a nice soft connection. Can you imagine if they stood this close to each other with their arms down? You know, they might as well have some body language that says, hey, we got married, I love you. And this is short lighting on her face. This is using an object. This is using her veil to slim down the side of her body. What's that?
Can you shed this light?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrogate anyone.
It's got a very sensual body.
My apologies. So just like you can use a person, you could also use an object like a veil to slim and crop into some of your body. Here, this is an engagement session. I am using him. I'm using this object here just to slim. I have her hand coming up to his face and his underside of his chin to slim. Okay. Her chin is up and out. Okay. It's not down and compressed. So, and I'll just show you one more. This is also, by the way, this is just direct sunlight. This is not flash. This is not LED. This is outside. This is direct flash, or I'm sorry, it's not flash. It's direct sunlight on someone's face. You're allowed to use direct sunlight. And if you expose for the highlights and you use it properly, it can be very flattering. Now the sun was lower. This was obviously in the fall. You can see the color, but I'm using the same techniques. Just the front plane of her face is lit. The side of her face is in shadow. Her arm is only lit partially and some of it is in shadow. And he has his hand up to her chin and her neck, and it's just flattering that way. And then the last one I'm going to show, I mentioned silhouette. So this silhouette, this is how important is this little gap here? How important is this little gap here? Especially with a silhouette, because you don't have any information. If you have the arms next to the body and you don't see the edge of their torso, it's going to have an optical illusion that they look wider than they are. And then this, if this gap wasn't here between her dress and her shawl, this would just create this large shape here and you wouldn't know where her legs and her dress ended and where that shawl began. So having a gap in the torso is important, but also having a gap if you have some other object. You want to have clear definition, delineation of the edge of their body. So that really covers everything I had today, but now I'll be happy to open up to any questions that you all have or anything from the chat. Yes. Yes. So, yep. Everything I'm showing you, these are portraits, and everything I taught. This is not for photojournalism. If a couple is giving their vows, I am not going to say, bring your chin up, lean in this way. You know, I'm not going to do that. This is only for portraits, and during portraits, I can give people direction, and I can flatter them. I can show an embrace. I can tell a story with all these things. So they were up on a hill pretty far away. I was yelling at them. However, the hill wasn't too far away. But a tip, if you're doing a really wide shot just tell one of them, whoever has pockets, but sometimes dresses have pockets too, tell them to put the phone on speaker. You can communicate with them. You don't have to try to yell really far. You can just say, step forward, give a little gap between the arms, bring the chin up, make sure your shawl is out. Yeah. But I gave all of these portraits, I gave them some direction. Any other questions?
What's your average amount of time that you spend in each pose with the couple?
So he asked, what's the average amount of time that I spend with each pose with a couple? That varies tremendously. And it also depends on your experience. So for example, if I was playing an instrument, if I'd been playing an instrument for 10 years, I can very quickly play someone a song. If I was just starting, I would have to concentrate more. So with them, I was pretty fluid because I've been doing this for a while. So the longer you do it, the quicker it can be. And then it's also dependent on the couple. So, and no fault of any couple, some couples take direction faster than others, and other couples, you might have to give them a little bit more direction. So it varies. But I mean, at this point, I mean, it's seconds, you know, because I can say someone to stand like this, I could say stand like this. Sometimes it's that quick. And especially if I did an engagement session with them for the wedding day, they're warmed up. They know what it's like to work with me. Yes?
Your two main priorities is making them look natural and make them look slim, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Then show some intimacy or show some, maybe some. Do you show conflict? Do you show do you show some emotion?
Can you repeat that? I don't think I understood the question.
What is your if you prioritize thing, right?
Yeah.
Thing you try to make them look natural. That's what you gave us on our first checklist, right? The second thing is you look them slimmer. You try to make them slimmer. And what else? Like what emotions you try to extract?
Oh, okay, sure. So the question was, if I'm giving people direction to make them look natural, if I'm slimming them, if they've brought anything up to me that they want me to address, that comes through giving direction. And that's really what I wanted to focus on for this class. But his question was, how do I get emotion out of people? That could be a whole class in and of itself. But what I will say is I will give people, I work this way. I put them in a good environment. I put good light on them. I'll give them some direction. And then the last piece of the puzzle is getting some emotion. So how do I do that? By getting to know them. Some couples are funny. They like to joke around a lot. So I know I can joke with them. I take notes all the time. During a consultation for a wedding, they might mention some inside joke about how they met, where their first date was. All of these things are basically prompts I can use, but they're personalized prompts. Now, I could give general prompts, and I do say kind of just ridiculous stuff sometimes. I might say, just get in really close. You can whisper in someone's ear. Something that sounds ridiculous, but it actually works, is I want you to get real close. I want you to laugh on their face. Laugh on their face. Laugh on their face. And it already made some of you laugh. So, but if someone's face is really close and they're not expressing, whether it's kind of calm and loving or something laughing, it doesn't work. So I get the ingredients, the foundation first with lighting and direction, and then I will do something to get emotion out of them. But I don't make someone laugh if they're more reserved, and I don't make someone more reserved if they're the kind of couple that laughs. You know what I mean? So it's all about, I don't know what I would do without my notes app on my computer, because I'm always taking notes. So I will always want to reference their personalities and the things that they've shared with me. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a friend of mine that she's a performer. She sings. She's located in California. So I noticed that the picture that I've taken her without posing. Let's say she's with a group of people. Candid shots, they were like the best.
Yeah.
Candid shots work as well. But I caught her off guard, not posing, and wow.
Yeah.
The best. It worked great.
Yeah.
And then when I have her posing, it's kind of awkward, but
yeah.
Catching her you know, the group of people, candid, they were like my best photos.
Yeah. So I don't know if there was a question there, more of a something you're.
More of a comment.
Yeah, yeah. So his comment was that he is a friend. He likes to photograph them. And some of his favorite pictures of that person is when they're interacting with their friends and joking around and candid. That is amazing. And I would categorize that as photojournalism. And what I'm talking about today, I would categorize as portraits. So photojournalism, which is most of the wedding day, but that's not what I'm talking about today. Most of the wedding day is photojournalism, but you need a catalyst. So whether it's and catalyst, you need something to spark an emotional response. So that could be seeing your friends, that could be sharing your vows, and maybe you're wiping a tear, or a parent is holding, you know, their mother, you know, as they watch their son or daughter get married. You know, there's some moment that they're responding to, and that's photojournalism. And without a doubt, those are absolutely beautiful moments and pictures for sure. Yeah.
Sylvia, do you ever try the compromise of showing, say, motion, setting up motion in the portrait? Is that, I don't know if that's a conflicting statement or not.
So the question was, do I ever try to show motion in the portrait? Motion, yeah. So yeah, I will have people walk. And they usually are moving to some degree, especially if they're interacting. But I will have people walk. I didn't show any pictures of people walking. I've even had people run if they're comfortable. And that's lots of motion. And it can be emotional with the body language. I didn't specifically show any of that today because, especially with running, you can't really give people direction. You just kind of say run. You can say run this way, that way. With walking, you can give some direction, but not as much as this. So I wanted to choose things that are circumstances where there's more control and there would be more direction. But if I do tell someone to walk, I usually tell them to pretend like they're on a tightrope, just one foot in front of the other. And I try to take a picture when their foot's like this, click, click, click. And the reason being, if you say, hey, just walk towards me, guys. I mean, some people might have a wider stance. They're walking like this. And if you take a picture when someone's like this, it's not going to be so flattering.
That was the point of integrating some of your points about
Yeah.
the swimming and lighting and things like
Yeah. You have less control when people are moving, but you can still give some direction. Usually when people walk, the only thing I say is hold hands. So that's going to at least show a gap on one side, and just pretend like you're on a tightrope, look at each other. And to get an emotional response, I'll sometimes say, just bump your butts together, little body checks of love. I'll say ridiculous stuff like that. They kind of bump into each other. They start laughing, you know, and that's a moment.
Speaking of laughing,
Yes.
do you find it to be more successful if you isolate the couple or the individual from their family? Or is it better when some family members are around and you shoot them in the middle of everybody having more levity?
Yeah. So his question was, do I photograph people when their family are around and things like that? Yes and no. I will say that there are times when it's beneficial to have, especially if a couple says, we don't want to do an engagement session. So if the couple didn't want to do an engagement session, I'm not going to force them to, but they're not going to have as much rapport with me. So what I like to do is maybe get the maid of honor, the best man, someone they know with me. And I could have them stand next to me and say, if there's a groom, hey, if the groom's name is Steve, I'd be like, hey, just give Steve a hard time. Just talk smack, joke around. And he knows Steve better than me. So I didn't get a chance to build rapport, but Steve can probably get them to laugh and joke around and be comfortable. Same thing if there's a bride or if there's two brides or two grooms, whatever the case might be, recruit people that know them. Now, there could be a circumstance where there's too many people. You don't want to try to photograph people right next to, say, cocktail hour where there's 150 people, or in the church if people haven't left, there's people looking, no one's looking at the camera, everyone's distracted. So if there's too many people that are family and friends around, it's detrimental. But if there's just one or two, that could be helpful. Any other questions? All right, great. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for coming by. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.